Between the Uprights Live. I'm here with Joe. My name is Matt, and it's a Thursday night football review and a Week 9 preview. First of all, damn, Week 9. The NFL flies by. We're already in Week 9. This is crazy. But first, all of those beautiful YouTube things, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, subscribe, share the stream with your friends, all that good stuff. Send us questions in the chat as well, or things that you just want us to talk about, whatever. Okay, if you want to talk shit in the comments, talk shit in the chat, do that too. Okay, we're here for that. We're always here for some good shit talk on Between the Uprights. We'll respond to it live, and we'll talk about it live as well. But, Joe, we have to talk about Thursday Night Football. A couple of 2-win teams going into the game that are now going in completely different directions, as the Baltimore Ravens absolutely smoked Sammy's Miami Dolphins 28-6. The Dolphins moved to 2-7. The Ravens moved to 3-5. However, the loss for the Dolphins may have had something positive in the long run, as they fired GM Chris Greer after almost a decade at the position. And it's at this point, Joe, that I would normally kick it to Sammy, Miami native, Dale Sports host. I also subscribe to that channel. If you're watching now, subscribe to Sammy's channel, Dale Sports. Shout out to Sammy. But again, he's not here, okay? And I'm pretty sure this is the first time in the history of humanity that someone called in to work. He called in to Chick-fil-A and said, I want a shift. Give me a shift immediately, because I am so tired of talking about the Miami Dolphins. So, Joe, I got to kick it to you instead. Joe, give me your thoughts on this Thursday night football game between the Ravens and the Dolphins.
You know, it's been coming to a head for a while, right? And Dolphins fans, I think, have been waiting for something to change. And you finally got your change, right? Like this game, if you take any solace from this game, it is that Chris Greer is no longer the GM of the Miami Dolphins. And whether you're happy about that, which I think a majority of Miami is happy about that, or you're upset about that, which I don't think there's very many Dolphins fans that are, this is a pivotal moment in Miami Dolphins fandom, right? This is a turning point in the franchise, because now, you know, McDaniel has been told he's going to get to the end of the year. Minimum. Will he hang around? Very rarely do you see a GM come in and inherit a coach that they're happy to keep. So I would expect him to be relieved of head coaching duties sometime in the offseason, barring some astronomical comeback. You're also probably about to wholesale a lot of top-tier talent you brought into this team. Honestly, you know, give Chris Greer his credit, he tried things. You know, the Bradley Chubb signing, some of the other signings, Tyreek Hill signing. You know, he tried to do things, and there's some players on this team that I'm pretty, you know, high on right now. I like Malik Washington as a young slot receiver. Jalen Waddle's young is good. Devon Achane has done some really good things for them. You know, but at the end of the day, this team is at a pivotal turning point, and this game just kind of showed, you know, it was time. And I think that's what you take away from this. So, you know, this is a big deal. They already announced who their interim GM is going to be for now, but, you know, they got to start looking at candidates. They got to start looking at people ASAP. And this should be a full-fledged, complete start over for the Miami Dolphins. Now, the head coaching candidates that you're going to hear about come out. You know, already we know that Brian Flores isn't an option for this team, because if he was, they wouldn't have hired him in the first place, right?
Yeah, they ain't doing that reunion. No way.
Yeah, no way. So you're kind of stuck right now in a situation where you did it off season too late, right? Like, there was a lot of really good offensive minds that came out and, you know, to head coaching situations, and you're not going to get those guys. I don't think that we're going to really have to see what the head coaching market looks like for the Miami Dolphins, because I think they are going to fire him. And Chris Greer now leaves a hole at GM that I don't know how they're going to fill. You know, there's not a lot of GMs that are on the radar right now. And, you know, most of them, if they don't have a job right now, they probably don't want a job. You don't want them to have the job. You know what I mean? So if that's what you take away from the Dolphins, hey, it's a turning point. There's nowhere to go up, but here you're probably wholesaling for the trade deadline. Everyone should be on the market and be able to be tradable. I mean, obviously you don't want to take, you know, pennies and peanuts, but you got to start over. And the sooner that happens, the better. If it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen in the offseason. And that's the way it is. On the flip side of that, the Ravens are now, they said it, they're dangerous with Lamar back. They every game's a must-win game. It's do or die every Sunday, every Thursday, whatever day they're playing. And they came out and looked the part. Granted, against a subpar opponent, but they looked the part. And that's what you want to see. They're stacking wins now. Lamar's back. He threw 4 touchdowns, you know, so that's what it's at. So the Ravens are, like you said, teams head in 2 different directions. The Ravens are on the way up. We've already talked about how they're going to be back in this division very, very soon. This is going to be a very big deal for them. And we have already said that, the way the Steelers have looked and the rest of the AFC sort of right now, it's kind of been a weird year, Matt. Like the teams we expected to dominate realistically haven't up until now, but we're starting to see them all as a calendar flips towards the backside of the regular season. You find out who teams are. We're starting to see who the Ravens are right now.
Yeah, and to your point, Joe, this wasn't a good opponent that they were playing on Thursday. The Dolphins obviously just moved to 2-7. They fired their GM. Everybody wants them to get rid of their coach and quarterback as well, which, I mean, the Dolphins literally screwed up the three most important positions on a football team, the GM, the coach, and the quarterback. They screwed them all up, and they're probably all going to be gone by season's end. But you watch the first half of this game, I didn't think the Ravens played very well, especially the defense didn't play very well this game. I thought the first half was just the classic, like, bad team beats itself, like especially defensively. Like the Dolphins were just stupid and bad in that first half. Like the Dolphins had 226 total yards and only 6 points. They were moving it up and down the field, but it was complete incompetence. They obviously had that fumble after they, forced a 3-and-out from the Ravens. Then they missed the kick after the false start on their right tackle. And then obviously the bad call on Ollie Gordon as well. That takes away that 40-yard bomb to Jalen Waddle. So they had a little bit of bad luck, but they also beat themselves in a number of different ways. And like I said, the Ravens weren't impressive early, but in that second half, they looked 100% back. Lamar still didn't look 100% maybe running the football. He still looked a little bit nervous, a little bit tentative to kind of test that hamstring out a little bit, but he's going to have that extra, the basically extra bye week that is a Thursday night football game to recover and then be ready for next Sunday's game. But he looked great throwing the football. Obviously, 4 touchdown passes. It feels like it's a guaranteed 4 touchdowns every time Lamar plays the Dolphins. I don't know if you remember the game a few years ago where it was the opening game of the season. Lamar was in Miami. He dropped 50 on the Dolphins. He threw 5 touchdowns. That was kind of Lamar's coming out party in his first MVP season. But so it feels like guaranteed 4 or 5 touchdowns for Lamar Jackson when he plays the Dolphins. But second half was outstanding for the Ravens, like you were talking about, Joe. And listen, I'm going to say it this is the third straight live I'm saying it, Joe. Okay, we're halfway through to it coming true. I said when the Ravens were 1-5 and the Steelers were 4-2, in 3 weeks, these teams are going to be tied atop the AFC North at 4-5. Well, we're 1 Ravens win away versus the Vikings next week, and we're 2 Steelers losses, 1 versus the Colts and 1 versus the Chargers away from that being true. So I think this Ravens team at the end of next week is going to be right there, and we're going to completely forget that they even had the 1-5 start that we talked about before. But Joe, like you were talking about, this Dolphins team is absolutely incompetent. Our boy Sammy would be here to rant about it, but he's not. And he did a little mini rant on the Dolphins firing Chris Greer on his Instagram. And I put a comment on there and I said, surely, and I mean surely, they will nail this next GM hire. There's absolutely no way they screw up this next GM hire. No way, 0 chance.
You're taking a page out of my book.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing. You're taking a page out of my book.
I'm taking a page out of Sammy's book too. If you remember the short he did with the Browns, that's exactly what he said. He was like, "No way the Browns beat us," and then sure enough, they beat you. So again, the Dolphins have a way of screwing these things up. So Dolphins fans, obviously, be excited that you're rid of your GM, which, like you mentioned, Joe, will probably mean there's going to be a new head coach because the new GM often doesn't like the new head coach, even if it's not at first. After a year, they'll probably get rid of him anyway. And then that means probably a new quarterback as well in there. So again, the team's going to be changing, but that doesn't mean it's an exciting thing. It could also go the other way where Chris Greer was around a 500 GM. I think his record was 77-80. What if your next GM is 50-80? It could go downhill too. You think it's going uphill, but it could also just as easily go downhill. So I would temper your expectations, Dolphins fans, just based on the history of your franchise. I would temper your expectations a little bit.
What's funny though is that we've seen this before where offensive coaches, they go to a head coaching situation and kind of fizzle out, right? Josh McDaniels had 3 shots at it, none of them worked. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Josh McDaniels is a very good offensive coordinator. I think Mike McDaniel is a good offensive coordinator. I think that he's not going to be out of work long, is kind of what I'm getting at, right? There are teams right now that would take his offensive mindset and say, hey, you may have failed as a head coach, right? No playoff wins, 5 playoff appearances. Like there's not a lot there to really say you were successful, right? But from an offensive coordinator standpoint, when that team was healthy on offense and they had good quarterback play, they were good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Mike McDaniel is going to end up in a offense coordinator spot pretty quickly. I could see him going to a couple of teams. I think Cleveland is on a list that would love some offensive coordinator help there. I think you look around, maybe the Saints, even though they just got Kellen Moore, they might want to bring someone in to kind of jumpstart that offense because they've been having offensive issues. Like Kellen Moore kind of focused more on being a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he kind of from there.
Yeah, I think to your point about Mike McDaniel, the one that I was thinking about as far as teams that would fit well for him being offensive coordinator, say the Titans hire a defensive coach like Brian Flores, you bring in Mike McDaniel to run the offense, and you have a good young quarterback in Cam Ward. By the way, what a bind that would put Sammy in. Oh my gosh, the quarterback Cam Ward, the offensive coordinator is Mike McDaniel, and the head coach is Brian Flores. My goodness, he'd be an absolute
Titans fan.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if he would be or not, but he would be in a freaking blender with that situation. But that would be a good situation for him. You got a good, a talented young quarterback in Cam Ward, and then obviously you can implement your system, and you don't have to worry about the head coaching duties or doing any of the crazy interviews that Mike McDaniel does because he looks stoned off his ass half the time. You could let Brian Flores take care of all that, and then just run the offense. So
another good one's the Jets.
Yeah, Jets would be another good one as well, assuming the Jets decide to address the quarterback position here in this upcoming offseason. That would be another good one for him too. So, but yeah, we'll see with the Miami Dolphins going forward. But again, you have a little bit of hope with Chris Greer being fired, but I wouldn't get your hopes up just yet because that the organization is still bad. But Joe, let's get to this week 9 slate. Let's get to the Sunday slate. Let's start with the early slate. And Joe, we might as well go from talking about Sammy's team to talking about our team. It's the Atlanta Falcons at 3-4 to the New England Patriots at 6-2. The Patriots will be at home. I believe they're about 5.5-point favorites. So a solid favorite over Atlanta in this game. Pat's riding a 5-game win streak, and the Falcons are riding a 2-game losing streak. So Joe, our Patriots 5-game winning streak. What do you think? Do they make it 6 here on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons?
So, you kind of have to look at what the Patriots have done as a team, right? They're going up against a very good passing defense in Atlanta. Obviously, that passing defense got absolutely cooked a little bit. Wouldn't say cooked, I guess, but they gave up more yards than they had all season to a very bad Dolphins team, right? And so the Dolphins exploited them. Granted, Atlanta was depleted on defense. I'm a big proponent of defenses play up to par of the standard they are when they have all of their players. I've already said my piece about the Colts early on losses in those games because they didn't have 3 of their starting secondary players. But, remains to be seen. This Atlanta Falcons team is dealing with injuries. Michael Penix is questionable. Drake London is questionable. We saw Bijan have probably one of the weirdest fumbles last week that we've ever seen. I mean, he's very elusive, but you saw how sort of when he gets low to get elusive, that knee just came up and knocked the ball out of his own hands. That was not a forced fumble by anyone else besides Bijan. Bijan has a forced fumble on himself. So, but I mean, the Patriots haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher yet this season. That's going to be big, especially since the Atlanta Falcons offense runs through Bijan Robinson, right? I think they have a lot of very athletic linebackers. This is a home game with the way they're playing, how the crowd's been energized lately in New England. I don't see the Falcons really doing much in this game. I think it's probably going to be at least a 10-point game in this. That's my opinion, just by looking at, sort of the things that are happening with Atlanta, the injuries. Michael Penix hasn't looked sharp realistically this year. Bijan was held in check last week. I just don't see a lot of possibilities. Now, it's not improbable, right? It's not impossible. It's just improbable that it's going to happen. But yeah, I got the Patriots in this game by at least 10 points.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me nervous that you have the Patriots in this game by 10 points, Joe, because you never are confident in the Patriots.
Trap game. I'm bought in now. I'm ready to be hurt again.
I'm rethinking my whole life now. Maybe I picked the freaking Falcons. But
I'm ready to be hurt again.
For real. I think to your point, Joe, again, I'm a big Michael Penix guy. I think Michael Penix is slept on. We were talking about Michael Penix in a previous episode, how we think, he would have went to the Vikings if they didn't draft, if the Falcons didn't draft him. Yeah, maybe the Vikings would have drafted him. And I think that would have been a great situation for Michael Penix as well with his rocket of a left arm that he has. But in terms of this game, I mean, I think this is a bad matchup for the Falcons offense. To me, at least. Who are the Falcons' 2 best weapons? You mentioned it. It's Drake London. He's on the injury report, and he's probably catching that Christian Gonzalez shadow. He's a top 3 corner in the NFL. And according to Next Gen, Christian Gonzalez has been targeted on 22 of his 173 coverage snaps. He's only been targeted on 12% of his coverage snaps this season. And when targeted, Gonzalez only allows 2 yards of separation from his coverage assignment when the ball arrives, which is 5th lowest in the NFL. That's per Next Gen. So again, Gonzalez is an absolutely dominant corner. Again, he maybe he doesn't completely take away Drake London, because Drake London is a great receiver in his own right, but he certainly is going to neutralize him to a certain degree. And at the running back and in general, as far as best weapons for the Atlanta Falcons, like you mentioned, Bijan Robinson, one of the league's best players, period. But he's coming off his worst game of the year, like you mentioned, Joe, versus a much worse run defense in the Miami Dolphins. Just 9 carries for 25 yards against that Dolphins run defense that we saw Derrick Henry run all over yesterday. So, and now, again, he's facing maybe the best run defense in football in New England, second in rushing yards per game, 76 rush yards per game, and second in yards per carry, 3.5 yards per carry. Only Seattle has a better run defense in those categories. And according to Mike Reese, the Patriots are the only team since 1950 to go the first 8 games of a season without allowing an opposing running back to reach 50 yards in a game. That's absolutely insane. That shows how good this Mike Vrabel defense has, or this Mike Vrabel system has transferred to New England, how good they've done with the personnel despite the recent trades that they've had that have kind of, moved off of a couple guys who didn't really fit their system. So I think the Patriots are going to slow down Atlanta's offense enough. And I think Drake May is going to make a big play and a big spot with his legs because, like you mentioned, Joe, this Atlanta defense is really good against the pass. The best defense in the league against the pass, only 149 yards per game, but they do struggle versus the run. So I think Drake's legs, and maybe we see a Travion Henderson breakout finally with Ramondre Stevenson out. So I think it's going to be a little bit closer than you do, Joe. I do think the Falcons will neutralize the Patriots pass game a little bit, but I think it's going to be 23-20. I got the New England Patriots in this one. The next game I got, Joe, I don't even know if we want to talk about it. Okay. I don't know if we really have any takeaways. It's the Chargers versus the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if there's really anything that we take away from this one, Joe. Do you think the Titans somehow pull off an upset, or do you think the Chargers just romp them like we expect they will?
The only thing I got to say, Amarian Hampton stock to the moon. Dude's going for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game.
Is he back?
Rondé Gaston. Sorry. Got the O names mixed up. I read an article earlier that Amarian Hampton was coming back and the Chargers, it was a whole thing. It's on my mind still, stuck with me. But Rondé Gaston the second, buddy, to the moon, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's going to happen. Still, it's my boy now. I'm buying a jersey.
My fantasy team would be very excited about that. So, yes, go Rondé Gadsden. And I was like trying to find like some positive Titan stats for this part of the video. And I was like, oh, maybe like their stats got better after they fired Brian Callahan. No, their stats didn't get any better. They got whooped by the Patriots. They got whooped by the Colts. Granted, 2 good teams, but still they're just a bad football team and they need a lot of changes. So yeah, the Chargers are going to win this one and pretty easily. The next game I want to talk about, Joe, this one is kind of interesting. I'm kind of interested in seeing how this game plays out because I think it could be a high-scoring game, and that's the 4-3 Chicago Bears at the 3-5 Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is a big game for both teams. Chicago needs a bounce-back win after the loss last week and are fighting. They're right in the mix for an NFC playoff spot, and the Bengals, they're still in the mix in the NFC North. I mean, the Ravens are 3-5, the Bengals are 3-5, and the offense looks really good with Joe Flacco, and both defenses are absolutely terrible. So this should, like I said, be a high-scoring game. The Bengals are literally the last rated defense. They're the worst defense in football, and the Bears are the 25th ranked defense in football. I think the Bengals are the favorite in this game, but I think the Bears are going to bounce back, and I think they're going to beat them here 30-26. I think Caleb Williams has a bounce back game, even without DeAndre Swift in the lineup. DeAndre Swift's already been ruled out, so Kyle Monangai will bounce in there in that running back spot, and I think the Chicago Bears are going to pull off a win in Cincinnati. Joe, what do you think about this Bears-Bengals game? Who you got in this one?
Well, it's kind of funny you say that because you're looking at the injury report, right? Luther Burden, out. DeAndre Swift, out. Shamar Turner, out, or is on IR. Dominic Robinson, out. Roshan Johnson, out. Like, these guys are already out. They're all expected November 9th, except for Shamar Turner, who's expected to return February 9th. Obviously, his season is done. But then you look at the Cincinnati Bengals side of things, and I think this is more critical than all those names I just read off for the Bears. Joe Flacco, questionable AC joint in his shoulder. Trey Hendrickson, doubtful hip. Marco Wilson, doubtful. Like, you start to look at this, Logan Wilson, doubtful. So the defense for the Bengals, which is already bad, right, it's probably going to miss its best player. So this is a Swiss cheese defense right now already. They're going to be even worse against a Bears team that's sort of figuring things out under Ben Johnson in his first year. If Joe Flacco isn't a go, we've already seen that this team isn't good with Jake Browning, right? Like, it's just not happening. So I think that best case scenario, the Bengals make it close, but this is the Bears game to lose.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a definitely a game that the Bears should win, and it's like I said, it's a game they need to win. It should definitely, and it's a game they need to win. Like, this is a team that's fighting for a playoff spot in the NFC. And I sent a post to both you and Sammy today where it was like talking about Caleb Williams from his stats last year through 7 games and his stats this year through 7 games. It's pretty much identical. Like he's a little bit better with Ben Johnson in this better offensive line and these better weapons. But if Caleb Williams doesn't perform this game against this terrible defense with the weapons that he has on offense, with Ben Johnson, with that offensive line, we're gonna start. And we raised a little bit of question last week on our live with Caleb Williams.
But we're gonna start raising that, by the way.
Yeah, we did catch a lot. I mean, we catch a lot of flack for everything, man. People just hate people with opinions. I think, goodness sakes. But I mean, we talked about it on the live. Like, we're gonna really have to start considering what Caleb Williams is as a quarterback if he struggles in this game, because he should not be straight. Like, he's got way too much talent. Ben Johnson's way too good of an offensive mind. There's too much talent on this offense to really be they're not really struggling, but not to be performing as well as they should be. So yeah, this is a big game coming up for the Chicago Bears. But Joe, I want to transition. To a big game for a couple of teams, mostly for a team that we already kind of mentioned before, but it's Colts and Steelers. The 7-1 Indianapolis Colts at the 4-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. And to me, I think this game is going to go pretty much all in the Colts' favor, because I think the Colts are just straight up better than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's really not close. I think the Colts are going to be able to do whatever they want to this terrible Pittsburgh Steelers defense. If you want Daniel Jones to throw for 350 with those wide receivers and Tyler Warren, you can, because the Steelers got the worst pass defense in football, and the Colts have the 6th best pass offense in football in yards per game. If you want Jonathan Taylor to go for 150 and 2 touchdowns on the ground, that could happen too, because he does that to literally everyone. And the Steelers have the 18th ranked rush defense, and the Colts have the 6th best rush offense in yards per game. Or if you want to do both, Shane Steichen schemes it up every week, and it'll probably be a great mix of both. So, Joe, I think this is going to be a pretty handily, a pretty easy win here for the Indianapolis Colts, despite it being in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be something like 34-24, something like that for the Indianapolis Colts here in Week 9.
Yeah, I don't think the Steelers get over 20 points. I think this is going to be like a 17 to 34 kind of game, 17 to 28 kind of game. The Indianapolis Colts are playing great football. And when they're healthy, which they are right now, and we've seen them when they're healthy, the defense plays out of their mind. They're 6th in points against, 7th in rushing yards, 6th in passing yards, and 1st in points for. So they are going to hold the Steelers down, and they're going to outperform. They have the corners to do it. They have the defensive linemen to do it. They're going to get after Aaron Rodgers in this game. I think he's going to be sacked 4 times. I think that this is the turning point of the AFC North. This is when all those people that said, we're ragging on us because we said the Ravens are going to win this division. This is going to be the game that they start to notice, oh shit, the Ravens may actually win this division, because we already covered it, right? We looked at the next 7 games for both the Ravens and the Steelers. The Steelers have a gauntlet, and the Ravens have essentially Candyland. Right? Like just hopping through Lollipop Forest, because the teams they face, I think they have a combined record of like 18-36. And the Steelers are facing nothing but playoff contenders the next 7 weeks. So, yeah, no, the Indianapolis Colts are absolutely going to dominate this game. I'm looking for Jonathan Taylor to have 100-plus yards and 2 scores. I'm looking for Daniel Jones to go over 250 passing yards and 2 scores in this game. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is going to be able to hold up. And like I said, I think that this turning point in the season, this is where we'll look back on in the offseason when Mike Tomlin is no longer the head coach of the Steelers and say, this is where it started to go back.
You are just doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on that Mike Tomlin take. I mean, you could be right. I mean, if they start off, another hot start and they blow the division again, say they miss the playoffs. The AFC is pretty deep with solid teams this year. Say they miss the playoffs. I mean, and they're under 500 for the first time in his tenure. Which I predicted preseason. Like that could easily be a scenario that's on the board. But I think if the Steelers want any chance to win this game, they've got to get after Daniel Jones early with their pass rush. I mean, they're 8th in the league in sacks, which is good, but they're also facing the league's best offensive line entering Week 9 per PFF in the Indianapolis Colts. So I doubt that happens. Colts are only 3.5-point favorites in this game, by the way, in Pittsburgh. So I would take the points all day. I would eat those 3.5 points all easy. Day if I'm betting that, because I think the Indianapolis Colts really don't play close games. They're either going to blow you out, or they lost the one game. To who they lose to the Rams. They lost to the Rams.
Your Rams, man.
Yeah, my Rams. Yeah, you already know. But yeah, so I would easily take those 3.5 points, and I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to move to 8-1. But Joe, we got to move on. There's another game that we got to talk about. It's the 2-6 New York Giants hosting the 5-3 San Francisco 49ers. And it looks like it's going to be Mac Jones again for San Francisco. Apparently, Brock Purdy's still not ready to start with that toe injury. Apparently, he'll back up on Sunday, though. So I don't know. We'll see. But for New York, to me, it feels like the air has been taken completely out of the Giants after that Cam Scatterbo injury, and for good reason. I mean, that was the heart and soul of their team. There was the new energy that they just brought in. Him and Jackson Dart were cooking. They were headbutting each other. Everything was all great in Giant Land, and then to see that injury, there was so much momentum, and now it feels a little bit of doom and gloom. However, I think that Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo 4-game stretch, Joe, I think that saved Brian Dable's job. Okay. I think Dable can go to the front office now and use those 4 games and say, look at the energy, look at the passion, the toughness, the performance. Like, you can't fire me now. Like, imagine that plus Malik Neighbors. You just get another head coach to do that, and you got to keep me around. The Giants front office is going to get nervous and be like, I don't want to make a mistake with this young core. We got to keep this head coach. So I think it saved Brian Dable's job. But as far as the game goes, I got the Niners. I'm nervous about them going forward with all the injuries that they've had, but Dart has no help now. It's literally Jackson Dart and Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. I just don't see that working out. I don't think Jackson Dart can do it all by himself. So I think the Niners are going to win this one. Joe, what do you think about this Giants and Niners contest on Sunday?
Mac Jones is not very mobile. We've seen when teams can get after him, they affect the game. And this Giants defense can get after the quarterback. We've seen them get after the quarterback. We've seen them play tough games against tough opponents with that pretty much just had more talent on offense and make it a game. Granted, like you said, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, you're missing half of that formula, but I still think Jackson Dart is competent. Wan'Dale Robinson has started to perform a little bit. Tyrone Tracy is back and healthy, and Tyrone Tracy was doing very well for them last year. Boiler up, hammer down. That's my boy. Everyone knows I'm a Purdue fan. So, you end up in a situation where you still have competent running back play. You still have decent wide receivers. I think that, you need to get your tight ends more involved. But this game's going to be closer than a lot of people want it to be or expect it to be. I think right now San Francisco is only favored to 2.5 points. I think that's a decent expectation. This is to be a 3-point game. I don't think this is a high-scoring game. I think that you could see this being 2017, 17-14 kind of game for both these teams. I'm torn on this because I do think that when the Giants defense is teeing off on people, right? When they get Brian Burns going out, everyone's going down here. Thibodeau's going. Everyone's just getting after the ball, getting after the quarterback. The Giants are formidable. So I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm gonna switch my pick. Giants are winning this football game at home.
Oh yes, I'm gaining another game in the standings on you, my boy. There we go. I love the switch up. I love it.
I'm gonna go change it right now.
Gaining in the standings, baby. I love it. Just so anybody who's watching knows, we do like a pick'em standings, and I'm currently in the lead. I think I'm up by like 5 games, something like that. Something light, something light. Just a genius predictor over here, not minding my business, and winning the standings. But no, I mean this, like you mentioned, I think this is going to be a close game. But I think that the Niners are just the better team at this point. Like I mentioned, I think the air has kind of been taken out of the New York Giants. But there's another game that we got to talk about that I also believe is going to be close, and I also believe is going to be very low scoring. That's maybe the 2 best defense in football facing off. It's the Denver Broncos and it's the Houston Texans. If you want me to prove that these 2 teams are the 2 best defenses in football, here you go. The Houston Texans defense, 1st in total yards, 4th in pass yards, 5th in rush yards, 1st in points, 5th in takeaways, but they're just 19th in sacks. The Denver Broncos defense, 5th in total yards, 7th in pass yards, 10th in rush yards, 5th in points, just 20th in takeaways, but they're 1st in sacks. I think obviously, like I just talked about with the stats, the Texans take the ball away better, but the Broncos sack the quarterback better. They get after your quarterback just a little bit better. And with the Texans' trash offensive line versus the best defense in sacking the quarterback in the NFL, that's a bad combo. But both of these offenses have looked better lately. Both looked good last week. CJ Stroud now getting Nico Collins and Christian Kirk back after having the best passing game of the season against the aforementioned 49ers last week. And the Broncos' number 1 best cornerback in football, Patrick Surtain, is going to be out for this game with a pec injury. So, Joe, I'm going with an upset here on this one. Okay, I got the Houston Texans. I think they're going to turn Bo Nix over in the 4th quarter, and I think they're going to win on a game-winning Kaimi Fairbairn field goal. I think it's going to be something like a lot of field goals in this game, low scoring. I think it's going to be 16-13, Houston over Denver. And Joe, I got to kick it to you, and Broncos fans probably aren't going to be happy with your pick if you pick Houston. So pick wisely, my friend. Who you got in this one, Broncos or Texans?
It's kind of funny that the Broncos and Texans are facing each other right now because it's 2 teams that are literally, you could use to define them the same way. Really solid defenses with offenses that seem to have been figuring it out lately. That is the accurate description for both of these teams. Now, Patrick Surtain being down is a big, big problem. Granted, you still got Barron on the team, right? He hasn't got a lot of play so far this year, even though they were super high on him, right? They were super high on him. You haven't really seen him out there that much. They've kind of been running with Moses and Surtain. I think that giant piece missing, right? Unless Barron is the guy who comes in there and he's everything they thought he was and more. and he goes out there and balls, right? Texans at home. That defense is good. Their offense is clicking. The Houston Texans are going to win this game. And I'm all here for it. And even if the Texans looked like shit for the last 8 weeks, I'm still picking them because Denver Broncos fans are annoying, man. They're all talking about how Bo Nix is the best quarterback from the 2024 draft because of a bunch of box score merchant things, right? He's played more games than everybody. Of course, he's got more yards, more touchdowns. I mean, Jesus, what are we talking about here? Watch some football, right? This is what they said. You even watch the game, man. You even watch ball? You?
Yeah, crazy.
Y'all drinking the Kool-Aid up there in Denver, mile high. The air's thin and it's messing with your brain, man, if you think that Bo Nix is the best quarterback out of the 2024 NFL draft.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw Aqib Talib have that take too, and I was like, Aqib, like, I love you, bro. Patriots all the way. Like, you had some great plays for our Patriots, but you're tripping on that one. Like, there's no way.
My problem with Aqib, I love Aqib Talib purely because of how he says his name. When they used to do the player intros, Aqib Talib.
Oh yeah, that was a classic,
dude. Classic. I mean, him and Tony Gonzalez. You know, like
I'm Tony Gonzalez. Yeah, that was. Oh, yeah, that was classic.
We need to bring those back. NFL.
We do need to bring those back.
we need the joking player intros where they just get to be silly.
We definitely do. We definitely do need those back. Those bring a little bit of flavor to those Sunday night games after a long day of watching football. So yeah, that those definitely need to get brought back. But I mean, to your point, Joe, like Broncos fans were saying some wild stuff about their team in the comments, and too, like, again, we welcome all comments, but be real about your team. Like, me and Joe come in here and keep it real about the Patriots. Like, we'll come in here and we'll talk about what's wrong with the Patriots, what's right with the Patriots. We'll keep it real. Keep it real about your freaking team, bro. Like, I get you're a fan. I get fan means fanatic, but some of y'all gotta look yourself in the mirror and really consider, like, am I speaking from an unbiased perspective, or am I speaking strictly from just a fandom perspective? Because a lot of you guys will just be, casual take, no ball knowledge. Also, come up with something new, bro. We've seen those comments so many times. Like, those comments are so old. Like, we need some new, unique, creative comments in the comments, because
if you're going to insult us, do it on a whole new level. Yeah. Be original.
This take aged well. This aged like milk. Like, oh my gosh, like that. To Sammy's
you don't know ball.
Too. Yeah, to Sammy, we literally put that video out about Sammy. That was like the whole point of the video was he got his pick wrong, and there's still people in the comments like, "Oh, this aged like milk." Like, yeah, no shit. That's the whole point of the video, man. Like, how did you not get
satire video?
Yeah, it's literally we're making fun of him. That's the point. So yeah, it's come up with something new. Comments. We need some new and creative comments, because some of these are getting old. But speaking of getting old, okay, we got to kick it over to this Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions game. And getting old might be what Vikings fans are thinking about how we talk about JJ McCarthy right now. It's probably getting old to Vikings fans because he is returning from that ankle injury. And JJ McCarthy, welcome back to the NFL. You get a top 5 team in football in Detroit. Lions coming off their bye week. And listen, like I just mentioned, we've been very critical of JJ McCarthy and the Vikings this week. But despite that criticism, I just don't see this game going well for the Vikings this week, Joe. I don't know about you, but I think this is not going to go well for JJ McCarthy and the Vikings here in week 9.
It's not. I mean, it's just not. And, you know, if you look at most of the successful quarterbacks, right? Bo Nix, good offensive coordinator, solid running game, good offensive line, offensive weapons. Drake May, good running game, offensive line's improving, solid weapons, good offensive coordinator. JJ McCarthy has everything but the running game going for him. And I think that's the biggest problem in Minnesota right now, is that you're really reliant. That offense is reliant on the quarterback performing. Right. And so it's his first game back. He's only played 2 games this would be 2 games out of 24. This would be his 3 and 25. Right. So you're asking him to come in there, essentially a rookie, right? Even though he's been in the league for going on a year and a half, almost 2 years now, to go up against one of the best teams in the NFC on the road, and you're expecting what? I'll tell you what I'm expecting, that to take the points in this game, because Detroit's favored by 9.5. And they're going to protect that really, really well. I expect this is going to be very bad. And it's unfortunate because the Minnesota Vikings have probably one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL when it comes to Justin Jefferson, right? They have one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL in TJ Hawkinson. They have a very good wide receiver too, and Addison, and Jordan Addison. So when you look at this team and you sort of see the things that they're doing and how it's going, JJ McCarthy is going to run out of excuses very, very fast of why he's not successful. Right? Like, Kevin O'Connell is a good head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. We know this. JJ McCarthy is not successful in this team, in this situation. Like, this is one of, we were talking about it when he got drafted. This was one of the best situations a rookie quarterback could step into. Your defense played with the hair on fire. You had one of the best receiving weapons in the NFL, and you were going to be throwing the football, right? And you had a good offensive coordinator that could get you into situations to succeed, and your head coach, Kevin O'Connell. The other one was Bo Nix going to Denver, and we talked about it in the video. We talked about the Minnesota Vikings and JJ McCarthy. They probably didn't actually want JJ McCarthy. I believe that. I think that, there were rumors in the draft they were trying to trade up. I believe that. I believe that, they probably wanted Michael Penix, and everyone was thrown for a loop, including ownership in Atlanta when they drafted Michael Penix in Atlanta. So, I mean, this is literally the turning point for the Minnesota Vikings and JJ McCarthy, because you're going to have to see something from him in this game. I don't think they're going to win, but I want to see something from JJ McCarthy in this game. I want to see good reads, confident throws, high percentage plays, right? I think Kevin O'Connell needs to scheme this game to get JJ McCarthy into a rhythm for future games. If you scheme this game thinking JJ McCarthy is going to win you this game, you are going to absolutely get destroyed. That being said, Lions by 1 million. Take the
points. Yeah, for sure. And like you talked about, Joe, we have to see something from JJ McCarthy. And I went back after we did the Vikings video. I went back and I was like, by the way, go watch the Vikings video. If you're here right now watching this, go watch our Vikings video. We just released it today about JJ McCarthy. But after the Vikings video, I went back and I was like, man, did we go too hard on JJ McCarthy? Like, I went back and watched the first 2 games. I was like, man, did we go too hard on him? And again, like I said, I watched the first 2 games of JJ McCarthy. Absolutely atrocious. The first 3 quarters against the Bears. And then the fourth quarter was great. He did everything well in the fourth quarter. And then all 4 quarters against the Atlanta Falcons, he was horrible. Like, he was terrible against the Atlanta Falcons, just missing throws, missing reads, taking sacks, like taking way too long to get the ball out. I talked about this on a previous video. I don't like his release. His release feels really long and loopy. It feels like it takes forever to get out of his hand. Whereas other guys like a Bo Nix, like a Drake May, like a Jaden Daniels, it feels like the Caleb Williams, the guys in his class, Michael Penix, all of those guys, it feels like the ball gets out of their hands like that. And JJ McCarthy just feels like it takes so long for the ball to get out of his hands. So all those little things add up into a quarterback that just doesn't look ready to play right now. And like I mentioned in the Vikings video, again, he's the youngest quarterback in the NFL right now. He sat all of last season, and he's still the youngest quarterback in the NFL. Shows you how young he actually is. But again, we got to start seeing something. We got to see you stay on the field for longer than 2 games at a time. And we got to see you actually be able to perform when the lights are the biggest. And you're going to have some bright lights here coming up this week against the Detroit Lions. So we'll see.
It's funny too, because the comment on that short, right, that we put out about that you put out about me talking about how the Vikings didn't actually want JJ McCarthy. But there was a comment on that video, and it was in conjunction with someone like, it's 2 games. This is a horrible take. You don't know what you're talking about. And someone was like, this reminds me of another quarterback who couldn't stay healthy, was drafted very highly, and went into a situation, one of the youngest quarterbacks in the NFL at the time, and youngest to be drafted. And he was taken 4th overall by the Indianapolis Colts. It was Anthony Richardson, right? Mm-hmm. And they drafted him for his intangibles, hoping they could groom him to be a good quarterback. He hasn't stayed healthy, haven't been able to teach him how to play quarterback, and he got hurt in a weird elastic band incident that caused an orbital bone fracture in his face. He got put on IR. So that's kind of the same situation we're looking at in JJ McCarthy. First year, tears meniscus, out the whole season. This year comes in, plays 2 games. That's it. Now he's going to play his 3rd game against one of the best teams in his division, let alone his conference. It just feels like this is the wrong time, but you don't really have a choice. Is Max Brosmer? Don't get me wrong. Watch some tape on the kid back when he was in college. He's not terrible.
Minnesota kid in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yeah, I just don't see it. And to your point that you just made about the Colts, Joe, hey, Colts, learn from the mistake that the Vikings just made. Okay. The Vikings just had an MVP caliber quarterback. We talked about this on the video. Just had an MVP caliber quarterback there with the young quarterback sitting behind him. And they're like, we can let Sam Darnold walk and then let JJ McCarthy slide in. You have Daniel Jones there playing at an MVP level. I know you have Anthony Richardson back there. I know he's really, really talented. Don't fall for the freaking trap, Colts. You have your franchise quarterback potentially, or I'm still not completely sold on Daniel Jones being a franchise quarterback going forward, but he's playing like one right now. Okay. Yeah, I know you are, but he's certainly playing like a franchise quarterback right now. Again, if he's playing like a franchise quarterback, just pay him. Again, you got a couple of choices. Okay. You can do what the Vikings did. You can put Anthony Richardson in and he sucks, and then you have the same exact regret, or say Daniel Jones turns back into the Daniel Jones that we thought he was next season. Right. And you got to deal with paying him. Okay. You still had a really good season this year, and that was your cost for having a really good season this year. But don't make the same mistakes the Minnesota Vikings just made. Don't do it. You literally just saw it happen. Pay Daniel Jones. If you would have told me, I would have said pay Daniel Jones before the start of the season, I would have called you a fucking liar. But right now, Colts, pay Daniel Jones, because don't make the same mistakes the Minnesota Vikings have. And, it's definitely still costing the Vikings right now. But, Joe, we got to move on. I'm sure this next game that we're going to talk about is going to be pretty quick, because this is the second biggest spread of the week. It's the Green Bay Packers hosting the Carolina Panthers, and the Packers are 12.5-point favorites. And I actually might take that number in the opposite direction. I actually might take the Panthers plus 12.5, because since the first 2 weeks of the season, we really haven't seen this Packers team dominate teams like we thought they would, especially these lower level teams that they played, like Cleveland, like Cincinnati, Dallas, Arizona. All those games were either pretty tight or they lost, or in Dallas's case, they tied. But I'd say Carolina's probably in that tier of teams that I just mentioned, but this one feels like a pretty obvious Green Bay win here either way. Joe, what do you think? Is this a Packers win over the Panthers here?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, when you talk about the Cowboys and the Packers, well, the Cowboys have one of the best offenses in the NFL. Okay, good. Yeah, get it. When you talk about, the Browns, one of the best defenses in the NFL, I get it, right? The Arizona Cardinals, we talked about it. If they could stop beating themselves, they might be a competent football team. Right? Like the teams you mentioned there were not, or have something going for them. The Carolina Panthers have Rico Dowdle going for them, and that's about it. I mean, Tet's not been terrible, but, when you have the Jekyll and Hyde of Bryce Young tossing to you and you don't know which one you're going to get each week, it's a problem. I think that, that's another quarterback, that we can talk about right now that's probably on his way out. Right? Like we gave him an opportunity. We saw him when he first got drafted. He looked like bring your kid to work day with the helmet out there, running around with all of his, all his dad's friends, just letting the kid play. But at this point, I mean, I'm sorry, right? Like he's it's probably too savage. I apologize, Bryce Young. Yeah, you're a good human being, and I shouldn't say things like that about you. But at the same time, man, like, you haven't seen anything from him. He hasn't progressed. And honestly, is it a system problem? Possibly, but it's time for new scenery, right? Let Bryce Young go somewhere else. And that's another quarterback that I actually still have confidence in. I think Bryce Young has good quarterback play in him, right? I think that it's not going to show up in Carolina. I think Carolina in that system needs something different. I don't think he's the right quarterback for that system. I think that, you run into certain situations there. So I think that, that's he's on his way out there. I think they're going to have to get a new quarterback soon. And this is just going to be another game where, it's just, I wouldn't say the lights are too bright. It's just the Packers have too much talent on defense.
Yeah.
Right. And Micah Parsons is going to be hunting him down all game long.
Yeah, Panthers offensive line is still banged up too. They lost some guys earlier in the season. They're still banged up, and now you got to deal with the Rashawn Gary and Devontae Wyatt and all those guys in Green Bay. So yeah, I don't see this one going well. But to your point, Joe, I think Bryce Young still, like you mentioned, I think Bryce Young could do a Sam Darnold, or could do a Baker Mayfield if you put him in the right situation. But Carolina's almost never the right situation for anybody. In fact, we saw Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield in Carolina at the same time, and they both looked like they sucked. And then they go to competent situations, and sure enough, they're both MVP candidates. So yeah, I think Bryce Young needs to get out of there if he wants to the best for his career. And I think they probably give him the rest of this year, maybe give him next year, and then they probably don't pick up his option, and then he goes somewhere. But yeah, I think there is potential for Bryce Young down the road.
And honestly, the Panthers are another team that Mike McDaniel could go to and be an offensive coordinator because I think they need one. I think that's what we should do now. The rest of the season, we should just like start to pick out teams that we think Mike McDaniel would be a good offensive coordinator for, because he's not going to be the head coach of the Dolphins at the end.
That would just be a random throw that in randomly when Sammy's here just to piss him off. Like, oh, thanks for letting me know my head coach is going to be fired again. Yep, appreciate it.
He'd probably be excited, honestly.
Yeah,
but
he probably will. But it's
to flip it to the other side, right? Because we didn't really talk about Green Bay in this, like. Really at all. We just talked about the Panthers, which is kind of funny, talking about the team that's going to lose. But the Panthers the Panthers have a problem right now, and on their defensive side of the ball right now, they haven't been able to stop much of a nosebleed realistically most of the season. And the Packers are getting they got Christian Watson back last week. Romeo Doubs has been playing well. You still have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. I think that as a receiver core gets healthy here, Christian Watson gets back up to speed. Jordan Love is going to start to play more and more like what we expected to see from him early on. I think this offense is on the verge of exploding very, very soon, especially as, when it gets time for the Packers to start playing in, these colder temperatures. I think it's going to be 49 degrees in Green Bay this weekend. As that number decreases, as the weather rolls in, Packer football becomes Packer football. And so I think that's where you're going to kind of see it. It's like Detroit plays in the dome, Minnesota plays in the dome. The Packers and the Bears are still the only teams outside and up north, right? I think Packers football is the best football when it's in the snow, when it's in the cold, when the temperature gets into the single digits. That is when Packer football is Packer football. So and this game right here, I think this is going to be one of those games where the Packers get another win. But the reason I bring that up is because you have Detroit Lions who are a half game back. Right. And I say a half game back because the Packers got the tie.
The tie, yeah.
I think that if the Packers need to stay on pace with the Lions, they get home field. You have to go to Green Bay in January. This might just be the perfect storm for the Packers. And I've said it before, right? There was the good old number 26.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to say it again. I'm going to keep manifesting it. The Green Bay Packers are making a run this year, and they could be the number one seed in the NFC, and nobody wants to go into Lambeau Field in January.
Well, to your point about the Lions, they went into Lambeau Field the first week of the season in September, and they didn't want to go to Lambeau Field in September. So what do you think is going to happen in January or December or whenever they got to go back for the playoffs? So, yeah, I mean, and two, I think that Packers team is well built to beat the Detroit Lions as well. So, yeah, I think like you mentioned, I think if the Lions want a chance against the Packers, it's got to be on their terms. It's got to be in Ford Field. It's got to be in Detroit if they want a chance. But, the Green Bay Packers, they're in a good position going forward. But Joe, we got to move on. This is a game that could be interesting. Both of these teams are coming off their bye weeks. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders, two teams that I personally all season have not believed in at all. I didn't believe in the Raiders even after they started off the year by beating our Pats, and I didn't believe in the Jags even after they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It felt like the Raiders roster still wasn't good enough, and the Jags weren't in sync offensively, and they're too turnover reliant on defense. Both have been struggling. Jags on a 2-game losing streak, and the Raiders are 1-5 in their last 6. The Jags are the much better, or maybe the better team here, but I'm not sure it's by as much as you might think. I just don't think these Jacksonville Jaguars are all that good. And in theory, this might sound like a bad matchup for the Las Vegas Raiders, especially turnovers wise. The Jags have forced the second most takeaways in the NFL, and Geno Smith is tied for the league lead in picks because he likes to throw about 3 a game. That seems like a bad recipe, but I think that script is going to flip in this game, Joe. I think Geno's going to take care of the ball. I think the Jags are going to struggle on offense, especially with Travis Hunter going on IR with a non-contact knee injury in practice. That's not good. That also begs the question that we had before the season. Would he get hurt because of the workload? I don't know if that's the reason that he got hurt, but it's something to think about. Plus, when you have Travis Hunter, it's a luxury when you have him because he's a good wide receiver and a good corner. But when you lose him, they might have just lost their wide receiver 1 and their cornerback 1, considering how Hunter looked at wideout versus the Rams going for over 100 yards and with Brian Thomas Jr. struggling and in trade rumors and hurt. So again, vibes are just a little bit off in Jacksonville right now. And I think the Raiders are going to score an upset here at home. I think it's going to be 24-23. Close game, but the Raiders score the upset at home. Joe, what do you think here? Raiders or Jags? Who you got?
And it's kind of crazy how high you can ride and then how far you can fall, right? Brian Thomas Jr. had probably one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons we've seen in a hot minute. Like, he was catching everything thrown his way, and now he just can't catch a cold.
Crazy.
Realistically.
Insane.
So it's kind of wild to see that. The Travis Hunter news, obviously terrible, terrible news. It was what we were concerned about. And it was, to your point, what happens when you draft a dual threat player like that is that when you lose them, the loss is twice as bad, right? It impacts you twice as hard. And so I could see your point in thinking the Raiders got a shot at this, thinking they're going to get a chance there. It's just not going to happen. I have a lot of praise for this Jaguars defense. I think most of their problems, to your point, are on the offensive side of the ball. I think it's trying to get Trevor Lawrence on in rhythm, right? Trying to get him going, trying to get him rolling here. Travis Etienne has looked serviceable this season. I think Brian Thomas Jr. needs to figure out how to catch football again, whatever it takes to figure that out. It needs to happen because he is the primary source of yards right now in that wide receiver room for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, that being said, I believe, they had some injuries. They're getting some healthy guys back. They lost Travis Hunter, but I still think the Jaguars have the better team. I think that they have the better run game, even with Ashton Jeanty right now, because I don't trust this offensive line in Las Vegas. I thought they would be better. I thought they would focus more on the run. I thought that all these things would happen. There's a reason that I thought they would be competitive this year, and they have done nothing but to prove me wrong all year so far. So that being said, it's a closer game than I want to admit. I think it's, to your point, 3-4 points is where I'm at in this. And I think the spread's relatively reflective of that, if I'm not mistaken. So it pains me. Yeah, 2.5 points. I'm still going to go Jaguars here. I just don't think that the Raiders have looked competent on the offensive side of the ball, and whether Geno's lost the magic, left it in Seattle for Sam Darnold in the locker, so that Sam Darnold could ball out to doing another Jets quarterback a favor. I don't know, man, but yeah, the Raiders just do not look in sync. Max Crosby is the only competent player on that team right now, and it's just getting worse and worse each week. So even if Travis Hunter's playing, give me the Jags.
Yeah, the Raiders, after they heard you predict that they would beat the Patriots in week 1, they're like, okay, we got you. And then as soon as they won that game, we're like, we're out, bro. Like, we gave you all we could give you. Magic. That's it. That's it. We used it all up for the week 1 game against the Pats. Now we're out. Now we're going to tank like the Raiders always do. So yeah, I mean, I'm going out on a limb on this one. I don't think the Raiders are a good football team. I just don't think the Jaguars are a very good football team now either, especially without Travis Hunter. So yeah, I got the Raiders in an upset. But speaking of not very good football teams, Joe, we have a not very good football team playing against a very good football team, and it's the Tyler Shuck starting debut. It's the 1-6, 1-7? I don't know. 1-7.
Yeah, one win.
Saints, one win Saints versus the Los Angeles Rams, who are one of the best teams in football. And I don't think Kellen Moore wants Tyler Shuck to succeed. He decided to start him on the road in Los Angeles versus, my opinion, the best team in the NFC and the second best pass rush in football. 26 sacks for the Los Angeles Rams, the second most in the NFL, versus a Saints offensive line that is not very good. And this Rams pass defense is nails as well. Yards per game, they're middle of the pack, but opponents' completion percentage, they're 7th, 3rd in opponents' yard per attempt, 5.7 yards per attempt versus this Rams pass defense. And they're tied for 3rd fewest pass touchdowns allowed in the NFL as well. Tyler Shuck, with a bad offensive line and mediocre weapons, is going to die. He is going to die in this game against the Los Angeles Rams. There's a reason this spread is -14.5 for the Rams, because I think the Rams are going to cover the 14.5 spread and absolutely dominate the New Orleans Saints in Tyler Shuck's debut. It's going to be something ugly. I'm not even going to predict a score that ugly to Tyler Shuck because I wish well for the kid. It's just not going to work out. But Joe, any real takeaways from this game? What do you think is going to happen here for the Saints and the Rams?
I mean, I understood why they have to start him, right? You had to start Tyler Shuck eventually to see what he had. The season's lost, right? You're not playing to win games anymore. You're playing to evaluate the roster, right? Trade deadline is next week. I would say you're probably going to see at least 3 or 4 players on the field for the Saints no longer on this roster come 4:00 Central Time, November 4th, right? Happy birthday to me. It'd be a great present to watch some of these guys leave. So, you have to evaluate the team. The roster's bad. The salary cap situation in New Orleans is always bad, right? It's been bad since Drew Brees retired. and it continues to be bad. They just keep moving money into the future, and it's a major problem that they need to address. And you have to get some of these contracts off the roster. I think Cam Jordan probably retires at the end of the year, just throwing things out there. But you have to evaluate the team. What better way to evaluate what a quarterback has learned watching Spencer Rattler run for his life than going, well, hey, you've learned for 8 weeks. It's week 9. Welcome to the NFL moment for you, kid. Here's the Los Angeles Rams. Granted, that is probably the worst fucking present you could receive as a quarterback in the NFL for your first start is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations and is absolutely going to dominate you, but you had to do it eventually. On the flip side of that, we've already talked about it. We did a bold predictions, and that's going to be coming out tomorrow. You can check that out on the channel. There's going to be a video where I did some bold predictions for a blockbuster trade, and I believe the Rams are going to make one to make that Super Bowl run. They're going to win this game handily. I think that even though the 14.5 point spread is, lack of a better word, offensive, right? It's a little insulting to the New Orleans Saints. I mean, it feels like it, man. Like this is some college football type shit, right? Like this is UNL Monroe going up to like Ohio State, right? Like
that would be like 40. That would be like 40.
But you know what I mean? Like from NFL standards, you don't usually see 14.5 point spreads.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe the Saints come out a little chippy early on, but it doesn't matter. They could come out juiced up and ready to go out there bounty gating again, and it wouldn't matter for this game. Right. It's just not going to matter. So the Rams by 1 million. It doesn't matter. Take the points. They're going to cover.
Yeah. The Rams, I don't see any, unless like, I know for me, like I was decently, I thought decent of Tyler Shuck before the draft. I know Josh, our boy, was ragging on me because I said that if Tyler Shuck went to the right situation, he could potentially be the best quarterback in the class. However, he went to the worst situation he could have possibly went to, and now you're starting him against the Los Angeles Rams, who have the second best pass rush in football. So again, I'm not like a Tyler Shuck guy or anything like that. I would never claim to be a Tyler Shuck guy. I don't think there even is such a thing as a Tyler Shuck guy. So I just don't see it. I don't see it working out for him. And again, this is just going to be a very ugly game and a very poor decision and a very poor time to start Tyler Shuck against the Los Angeles Rams. But Joe, we just talked about a terrible game. We got to talk about the game of the week. We saved the best game for last this week because it seems like it's the game of the week every time they play. And a lot of the time it's the game of the year. It's Mahomes versus Allen, round 10. It's Chiefs versus Bills. And if this was a playoff game, I'd be saying how I have absolutely zero faith in the Buffalo Bills to win this game, especially in Kansas City, because Mahomes is obviously 4-0 versus Josh Allen in the playoffs. However, Josh Allen has Mahomes' number in the regular season. He is 4-1 versus Patrick Mahomes in regular season games. And when you look at these quarterbacks' numbers this year, there's been a lot of buzz about Mahomes for MVP, but their numbers are almost identical. Mahomes with 5 more touchdown passes. That's why he's discussed in MVP more. But you look at the team records, Allen's 5-2, Mahomes 5-3. Each have 4 interceptions. Completion percentage, Allen's is 68, Mahomes is 67. Yards per attempt, Allen 7.9, Mahomes 7.4. Quarterback rating, Allen 7.9, Mahomes 7.4. Rushing yards, 261 to Allen, 280 to Mahomes, and then rushing touchdowns, Allen has 5, Mahomes has 4. So they've been very similar in terms of their individual performance, and their teams are performing at a similar level. So again, they've both been really good this season, and the teams are also both, obviously Super Bowl contenders this season. But the reason, Joe, I am picking the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game is because the Chiefs are strong in the main positions that the Buffalo Bills are weak. Okay, we had an episode about the Buffalo Bills a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how their weaknesses are who's the number one option for Josh Allen in the pass game. Okay, nobody scares us. Well, Patrick Mahomes has Rashee Rice, who already looks like his wide receiver oneself, plus Xavier Worthy as the 2. You sprinkle in Hollywood and Juju. They are without Josh Simmons and Isaiah Pacheco for this game. So that brings me to my other issue with Buffalo is that despite a good performance from versus Andy Dalton and the Panthers last week, they're still not good on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, they can't take advantage of the potential weakness that would be on the left side without Simmons. And it's really not so much of a weakness for Kansas City because they also signed Jalen Moore from San Francisco, who was Trent Williams' backup there, and he has always filled in admirably admirably. And the Chiefs have a really, really good defense compared to the Buffalo Bills' not so good defense. The Chiefs have a top 5 unit on the defensive side, folks. Second in points, fourth in yards, third versus the pass. I think the Bills are going to try to control the clock, run the ball with James Cook, who's having a hell of a year, by the way. James Cook having an outstanding year for the Buffalo Bills, to try to expose the Chiefs' biggest weakness defensively, which is their run game. But their run game isn't even that bad. It's like the 11th ranked run game in football. And that just won't be enough for the Buffalo Bills to expose. So I think it's going to be another close game. However, the Kansas City Chiefs, Joe, are going to win. They're going to move to 6-3 by the score of 28-24. Joe, game of the week, man. Game of the week, Chiefs and Bills, Mahomes and Allen, round 10. Who do you got?
The Bills need to lean into their identity right now, right? They need to lean into their identity. Their identity is running the football, and their identity is running the football with James Cook. James Cook is the reason this offense is successful. The offense has to go through James Cook, which is crazy when you have Josh Allen. But because your receivers lack the capability to win consistently, James Cook is the focal point of how this offense is going to succeed. You're at home, run the football, control the clock, keep on rhythm, keep on target. James Cook can do that for you. They're the best rushing offense in the NFL because of James Cook. It's not because of Josh Allen. It's because of James Cook. Feed James Cook. Get him involved in the offense. The offense runs through him. Screens, pitches, stretch plays, handing the ball off, everything like that. Play action out of those things. Because everyone knows they have to stop James Cook right now. Buffalo, use that. And you have a chance to win this game. Even with the injuries on the defensive side, Ed Oliver's out. I understand that. That's how you win this football game. You have to help your defense. You have to keep them fresh. You have to keep them off the field. You have to keep Mahomes from getting into rhythm. When we see Mahomes struggle, it's because people keep him on the sideline. Because he can't go out there and stay in rhythm. Because when he goes out there and he's not in rhythm, he doesn't play as well. On the other side of this, I'm going to say this right now. I've realized why I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. I've realized
this will be interesting.
I've realized why. I realized why watching them play last week. I hate the Kansas City Chiefs, not because they're successful, not because they win Super Bowls, and not because I dislike Patrick Mahomes. Those are all very good reasons for me to hate the Kansas City Chiefs, but they're not the main reason.
That's what I thought, yeah.
They're not the main reason I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. The main reason I hate the Kansas City Chiefs is because it's bad football.
Ooh.
It's bad football. And let me explain.
This feels like a short, by the way.
The throw to Travis Kelce was not that's not a plan, right? He was in there to block and just kind of realized that there was nobody to block. And so he took off downfield. Smart, heady play, but that's not a schemed offense, right? Like the Kansas City Chiefs, and I forget who it was that said this. It was a former NFL player came out and says, I don't think they have a play half the time they go to the offensive when they break the huddle. I think they go out there and go, hey guys, run. Find open space. Let me know when you get there, because that's what it is. It's not schemed football. It's not offensive stuff.
Backyard
it's just
football.
The players. It's backyard football, right? And they've turned it into this great offensive thing, and it's just I'm frustrated with it. And I watch it. I'm like, God, man, it's like it's not even like you watch the play and they're like praising it, and I'm like, praising what? Like, Andy Reid's such an offensive genius. What the fuck do you mean? Andy Reid had nothing to do with that play. that was just backyard bullshit, man.
I love it.
Ah, God, it's frustrating to that point, right? I'm not saying it's not entertaining. It's entertaining football, but it's not good football, right? It's completely just made up. On the spot, it's someone drawing on their hand in the huddle like, hey, man, you're going to go like this. You're going to go like this. And if nobody's open, just do something.
That's such an amazing take. Sammy would have so much pushback for that take, but I love that take so much. The Chiefs play bad football. I mean, to your point, it is Mahomes a lot just running around and making plays, and that's part of the beauty of Patrick Mahomes is he's capable of doing that. It's part of the reason why he's one of the 2 or 3 greatest quarterbacks that we've ever seen, because he's capable of doing things that most people can't do. However, like you mentioned, they get themselves into trouble sometimes because they say, Mahomes, go make a play. And sometimes Patrick Mahomes can't make a play because there's no play to be made. So So yeah, they get themselves into some situations sometimes where it's like Mahomes or bust, and sometimes it doesn't work, you know. So yeah, they put themselves into tough spots.
I don't even think the Kansas City Chiefs practice. I think they just go to like the local elementary school and watch the kids throw the football around. Hey, write that down. Write that down. See what that kid did there? Write that down. That's what it feels like, man.
Ooh, that one ran into a tree. Let's try that.
yeah. We'll call it oak. That's the play call to change.
That's the play call that Xavier Worthy broke his shoulder on. He ran into Kelsey. He was like, "Oh,
yeah, the oak tree.
We'll run him into Kelsey." And then they're like, "Wait, okay, this one doesn't work. All right, this one got our
hurt. Scrap that one. Scrap. Didn't look good on the playground. I don't even know what we were thinking, but you see it, right? It's playground football, and don't get me wrong. I said entertaining, but when you're technically into football and you like watching competent play, right? And you see how the play develops and you see what the quarterback's seen and they break it down on next gen stats and everything like that. You're like, that's good football. When you watch Patrick Mahomes run around and Travis Kelce realize that, well, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do now. I'm an eligible receiver. I guess I'll just run and maybe Patrick sees me, right? Like, I get it, but it's not good. It's not good football. It's entertaining football. It's not good football. They can be true at the same time.
Well, and to your point, I mean, my boss who owns the gym, who's my buddy as well, who also is a former NFL linebacker, he doesn't even watch football anymore because he's like, the game of football has been so dumbed down over the years. And Tom Brady's talked about this as well, where he's like, when I was playing quarterback, like it was like I had to think about certain things that these quarterbacks don't have to think about because the game has been, you know, they've taken violence out of the game. They've made pass interference so prevalent. You went on a rant the other day about pass interference, how there's too many, the underthrown balls. You talked about that. I'm not even going to start you on that rant because I know we'll go for another hour. You talk about that pass interference call, but to your point, I mean, the game's been so dumbed down that, you know, a lot of the time it is backyard football what wins. You know, it is the freelance that what wins. It's not the, you know, sit in the pocket, really diagnose the defense, really properly read the defense to, you know, find out who's open and what I should do with the football and should I check to a run or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's a good point, Joe. We listen to Brady talk about it all the time, how these young quarterbacks come in and have success now right away because the game's not as complex as it used to be. It's much more simple. It's much more, you know, like you were talking about, run around and freelance. So yeah, that's an interesting take about the Kansas City Chiefs. That's one that I will definitely be making a short out of to piss off Chiefs fans.
So much hate. There's gonna be so much hate on that video, man.
There's gonna be a lot of hate for it, but hey, that comes with the territory. That's part of the territory of why we do what we do. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Okay, we talked about all the games besides Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, which we will be talking about on our live on Sunday at 7:30 Eastern time. So check into that. Again, thank you to anyone who tuned into the live or will tune in afterwards. We appreciate you. Do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. They help us out a bunch. And we'll see you back here on Sunday to review the morning and afternoon slates before our Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football previews.